idea for the show.
I still don't know what the idea is.
It's about nothing.
Right.
Everybody's doing something. We'll do nothing.
They say, what's your show about? I say nothing.
There you go.
I think you may have something here.
Cross Coast Spice presents the League About Nothing podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We have our first 2025 off-season podcast here. We're going to do a couple things. We're going to do a recap of the championship run by one Big Biscuits, and then we're going to do a first-round rookie mock draft. But if we're doing that recap, we need some help. Obviously, Al is here as always, but it wouldn't be much of a recap if we didn't bring on the man himself. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2024 league champion, one Mr. Big Biscuits. Big, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. How you doing? You're
doing
this is where I'll,
this evening.
This is where I'll edit in the applause.
I was wondering if you were ever going to tell me congratulations. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting.
You know, I can't pinpoint exactly what it was, but I'm 90% sure we said congratulations at some point, or at least I did.
Short-term memory loss.
We wanted to make sure we gave you a chance to publicly brag with your voice and not just your texts there. So tell us how it feels to win the championship and rub it in Al's face that your team building method is the superior one.
I mean, it feels great, I'll be honest, but we're just 1-1 right now, so there's still a lot of work to be done. We're still split, so I really have not technically proven anything other than I'm the more recent champion. So,
right, we still haven't had any repeat champions.
Yeah,
that's true. We're 4 years, 4 champions, and next year it's going to be 5 because I plan on winning.
It's a lot easier for me to brag when I'm typing to a computer screen than looking you guys in the eyes. I'll be honest.
Close your eyes. It's
a funny way to tell us that you like the look of Al's eyes, but I'll allow it.
Oh, yes. No, I appreciate the accolades. It feels great to be a champion and hang banners on Mel's wall.
Shots at the commission the first couple of minutes. I like it. We've said it before, especially when we did the first recap, but the most impressive part of the championship was that you put up the all-time high score of the league in the championship match. Like, how did that feel?
Oh, that was nerve-wracking, man. Flea, she should have been mentioned earlier, was such a she put every point available to her that she possibly could have on the board, and I needed every single point in order to beat her. So it was just a hell of a matchup.
Yeah, that was no cheap win. You earned that one.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what more she could have possibly done. So a hell of a competitor, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. We had two top 10 high, two top 7 high scores in the finals.
Hers was, I think, 6. I'm not 100% sure. I think it was 6.
A lot more interesting than the actual Super Bowl.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we had a slobber knocker.
Well, to everyone except for Mr. Good News and Criddle.
Yeah, they had a good time.
So that team that you built, you look like you're in pretty good shape for the long term. Do you plan on making any large scale changes other than trying to mortgage the future to acquire JJ McCarthy?
I tried that and failed already. I make a ton of plans. It's sticking to those plans that's really the hard part. I definitely acquired some draft picks this offseason, so I have some liquidity. Looking at you, Al, to
don't admit that in front of him.
I can do what I want with that. I always, every time, I promise you, every time I acquire a draft pick, the plan is to make the pick. I can be talked out of that though, and that every pick I got along that playoff run, because I was in a fortunate position to be able to kind of sell some stuff off as my competitors were going in the earlier rounds. So every pick I acquired during that period, I planned on keeping, which obviously I traded the second to you for Garendo and some other things. I had to get rid of a lot of those, but I always plan on keeping them. I plan on keeping the picks I have now. I plan on making picks at those spots, but I'm sure I will fall in love with something along the way, and the best laid plans go out the window.
And so that really is exactly the opposite of Al's strategy right there. He acquires picks expressly to not make them and to trade them.
Right. Yes. No, I try and hold on to them, but I'm just so easily swayed. If you just come and start talking to me about trades, odds are you're going to get something out of me, something. So it just, I can't resist.
It's for love of the game. You just want to see stuff happen.
I think you just
That's
like
right.
trading.
So there's a part of that, that's for sure.
Because I definitely fall into that category. And the reason I acquire picks is because then I can always use them for more trades.
That is true.
It's not that I don't want to make any picks, just that that's what people want to trade for. And I just like trading.
It gets you in the door.
Right.
I like acquiring picks because it's always the potential of what my team could turn into.
3 more years.
Yeah. I'm just going to trade all my picks for 27 picks. That's what Reddit told me to do.
Oh, they're full of great ideas.
I love a rookie draft though. I really love making draft picks. So I really do acquire them to make the picks. And there's a lot of leagues where I have 12, 15 picks and I have no idea what to do with them. I'm trying to consolidate, but everyone knows that's what I'm trying to do. And I'd love to just make them all, but
there's always a buyer come draft time.
Yeah.
Someone will come looking for those picks, even if they know you're trying to get rid of them.
I feel like I've lived so much life since the end of the season, remembering back to that time and the headspace I was in at that time.
It's been like 6 months.
It feels like it. Yeah. Yeah. It was like 12 elections ago.
You were saying you had on some teams you have 12 or 15 picks. The problem when you have that many picks is finding that many spots on your roster. If you have that many picks, chances are your roster's not great, but you still have pieces that are worth rostering at the end of the bench or something like that. And it's really difficult to get anyone to be interested in those pieces at this time of year. But that come the start of the season, most of those pieces are going to end up on someone's bench. And it's just watching, it's only a little bit of value, but watching a bunch of 5th round picks just fall out the door.
Right. And there's always undrafted free agents that I want to pick up, and you can't be 17 roster spots over the limit and pick those guys up. So, and you think, I go to approach people and I will tack on a 4th or a 3rd just to put a little sugar on it and hope that just excites them because it's draft season. And then they inevitably are like, well, can I just get a 2nd instead of just up it significantly? And it's like trying to explain, that really wasn't a lot of value tied up into that. I was just kind of putting it out there to dump them, but then you put all the power in their hands at that point, and the whole thing's a mess. Being overloaded with picks is a bad problem to have for sure. And it's not as easy to wait till draft day to dump those when you're overloaded with leagues like I am. So that's the burden that I chose to bear. I just don't have time for the granular detail of every single league. So I'll get to a lot of draft days and just be 7-8 players over the limit and no trade partners. So
yeah, that's the biggest problem with draft picks is they have a lot of value until you're on the clock, and then nobody sees anybody they want, and now all of a sudden they don't want that pick.
Exactly.
So sometimes you wait till the last minute and you run out. Sometimes there's players that people will want, but that's not always. You're down to having someone that actually wants the player available at that point. It's just like trading a normal player versus trading a pick.
Timing is everything. It is, and it's not always the same, and each person is so different. You got to push the right buttons for every little sweet spot. It's hard, but it's what makes the whole game fun, right?
Right.
Sometimes you get lucky with the player available when you're trying to move out of a pick, and you get more than you thought you were going to. Think about last year in our draft. Right. Al, you and I got into basically a bidding war for I think it was the 8th pick that I ended up getting with Penix. And then a short time later, I was on the clock at 12 trying to see if anybody wanted to take that pick, and no one was interested at all. And I ended up drafting Bo Nix with it. Obviously I was able to trade Bo Nix later on, but like you look at those two players, and right now, obviously, I think the majority of people would probably take Bo Nix over Michael Penix. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it seems to be the general consensus.
Fantasy superstar Bo Nix.
Exactly. I mean, top 12 quarterback in his rookie year. So like
QB1 Bo Nix.
yeah. Sometimes you don't expect that that value to be there and it's there, and sometimes you expect it to be there and it's not. So,
Right.
Well, that's the exact problem that I'm talking about. It's coming down to individual player preference versus just, oh, I want whatever picks I can get, because the picks could be anything. Once you're on the clock, it's only a handful of players that could potentially be. So you've got to find somebody that actually wants that player if you're not trading them ahead of the draft. That's the risk. It goes both ways, of course. If there's somebody like Michael Penix that a lot of people want, then there you go. You got a bidding war. If it's someone like Bo Nix that nobody wants, then you're out of luck.
The weird thing about the arms race in our league is you could make an argument that it's easier to sell a pick in the middle of the season than it is right now leading up to the rookie draft, because now people are saying, oh, I don't want a 4th round pick. I don't want to, those picks are meaningless. But during the season, that's the currency that keeps things moving and keeps people competitive week to week. So people are just trading those picks around like crazy. And I've had a harder time moving. I have 3/4, and I've been trying to ship those out here and there, and I have a harder time moving those than I would in the season, I think.
Our league is in an interesting spot. I don't know if that is how it kind of works universally, but in our league, we have a very unique economy that's developed.
Absolutely. I would say that's totally backwards from the way most leagues work, as a more traditional ramp up to the rookie draft. And we do have some of that, but they're, especially with those later round picks, we're at the stage of the offseason where those aren't quite as shiny, and they'll gain some value, of course, but in the middle of the season, if I just need to pick up a 17 point, or not, if I just need to pick up 10 to 17 points, on a bye week here and there, I can go grab a guy for a 3rd or 4th round pick. Try and move those now, you run into some walls.
Yep.
You mentioned earlier the 2nd round pick that you traded me for Garendo. I've had several managers in our league. That's your 2nd round pick, which is 212. It's the end of the 2nd round. I've had multiple people in our league be like, that pick's basically a 3rd round. It's essentially worthless. And I'm like, well, yeah, but it's also not. It is a 2nd round pick still.
Right.
That's what everybody says when they're trying to buy a 2nd round pick. It's basically a 3rd. But if they were trying to sell you that 2nd round pick, I bet they wouldn't be calling it just basically a 3rd. Yeah. You want this 212? It's basically a 3rd. I don't need it.
So now we're gonna.
I'd like to see that side once.
Yeah. So now I tried to use it in a couple of trades and been rebuffed, and now I'm just going to hold on to it. And hey, we'll see what happens on the clock with that one. Like maybe I'll have a guy that I like. Maybe somebody will have a guy they like and want to come up, and I'll be able to do something else. But it's definitely a very unique, as you said, economy in our league that I have not seen the like of elsewhere.
Absolutely. I'll be interested in that 212, by the way.
Right. I was like,
the money round.
I tried to trade for that 212.
Don't you have like 4 2nd rounders right now?
Who, me?
Right now.
Do you have any 2nd rounders though?
Me? Yeah, I have 3.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't keep track of those picks. Yeah. It'll change in the next hour probably.
Before we move over to the mock draft side of things, do you have anything else you want to say about your championship run? I mean, like we didn't even mention you had the 1st round bye. You beat Flinch in the semifinals. You put up a 284 there, which was enough to win any other playoff game except for the finals where you would have lost that one. But, I just want to mention that before we move on completely. 2 weeks back to back, 284 and then 315 is, I don't think we're ever going to see another one of those for a while.
I will invoke AJ Brown here. I believe it was like a day or two after the Super Bowl victory. He was like, yeah, it was fun. Winning's fun, but I'm already on to the next one. It's the chase. It's the grind for the next championship. So that's it's the what was his self-improvement book?
I don't remember the name of it. I do remember it.
Inner Excellence or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure Crit will let us know in chat.
Yep.
But no, I did see that after, AJ was pretty like ready to stop celebrating and start getting ready for the next one. And I'm not trying to, I don't know, sound a certain type of way by saying that. I really am just so enthralled by rookie drafts and keeping things moving and what's going to happen next that I just mentally kind of over last season and fully focused on the future and excited to keep things going. So I love our league, and I appreciate you guys putting up with me and it's been fun. So I
think you
appreciate
have
everybody.
I think you have to be like that though. This is dynasty. It's not redraft, right? It's not like you're
Sure,
starting
yeah.
completely
Listen,
fresh.
if I ever win a title, I've got a full year to brag about it, and there is nothing that anyone can say for a calendar year. I'm not gonna not try to win the next one, but no, I'm just gonna ride the coattails of that one for a full season, and there's nothing
Yeah,
anyone can do about it.
I just don't think there's much room for me to go up as far as like being a blowhard day to day in chat. So I feel like, what more can I really gloat about at this point? So
This is real Tom Brady energy. What championship's your favorite? The next one.
the next one, exactly. Yeah, hanging. I want to put so many banners in Mel's house that he can't even see out his front window.
All right. I think that's a good note to move on to our next section on. Before we get to the mock stuff, do you want to do your theme park story earlier?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Actually,
All right. So you teased this last time, and then we spoke for approximately 3.5 hours about everything under the sun and got completely distracted. So we're gonna clear the floor, let you go ISO one-on-one here and regale us.
man, I better make it a damn good story at this point. Yeah, so Schlitterbahn is the water park that my family goes to every summer. And the story here, it's a little sad. It has some sad elements to it. So, trigger warning, there is a death involved of a
Yep.
small child. It's very sad. But, and I forget how it even came up in chat that I wanted to share it, but we were there and I'm there all the time. And it is like, it's an interesting thing. But the point is, there were three siblings that moved to New Braunfels and bought the Schlitterbahn property right when water parks were starting to become a thing nationwide. And you had one of the brothers was in charge of the business side. He went to UT and got a business degree. Then the sister was in charge of marketing and she had a degree. And then the third brother was the black sheep of the family. I don't even think graduated from high school. Big time partier, drug addict in high school and stuff. But he was very innovative with the slides. And he actually noticed at that time, all they had was a giant pool with a regular, playground slide going into it. And he noticed the kids would hit the surface of the water and skip across the top of the water. And sometimes, land outside the pool and hurt themselves. So he bent the bottom of the slide down and right below the surface of the water. Hard to explain on an audio podcast, but everyone's seen it at any water park you've ever been to, that ending part where it goes underneath the surface of the water and it slows the kids down. It's called a water break. He invented that, as well as a lot of other things. Now, when it comes to innovations in water park horizons, it's saying invented is strange because a lot of times people are coming up with the same sort of solutions at the same time elsewhere. Yeah. But this was all during the Action Park and Wet and Wild and Schlitterbahn, I think, were the only three in the late 70s, early 80s that were prominent. So it's just very special to the town, and it's an awesome place. This guy was an inspirational story. He invented the uphill water coaster. Basically, like if you put your thumb over the end of a water hose, how it sprays water. Yeah. He took that concept and put an inner tube on top of it, and it blows you uphill. And so it allows, to have an up and down water coaster. He came up with that concept as well as the surfboard concept that you see sometimes. It's like a boogie board, a boogie bond is what they call it at Schlitterbahn, but they have them on cruise ships and things like that. So all of these things, which are just major developments in the water park industry, came from this uneducated partier from New Braunfels. And he built a pretty big empire, was a millionaire, obviously, and had a big business going. And the Travel Channel approached him. They were doing a special about the biggest, baddest water parks out there. He didn't have the concept of a plan. He really just saw the opportunity to get on TV and said, oh, yeah, we're building one. We're building the tallest water slide ever. And they weren't, but he told them that in order to get on TV. And so they had, just a few months to get it done. Right. So they started building, and Travel Channel kind of, to yada, yada, yada a little bit, Travel Channel really was pushing them to go bigger, go harder, go faster. On even some of they filmed like documentary footage of the test runs where they were putting sandbags and stuff on the slide. They would put casters with wheels so that the slide would actually go faster to make it look like more of a thrill than it was. So Travel Channel's kind of responsible for all of this also by really like trying to get them to up the ante, so to speak, egging them on. So they build the tallest water slide in the world, and they open it up. It's not entirely open to the public. It's just open to, I believe it was like military families and their kids, as well as like state representatives. And there was a state representative from Kansas who went, and his two little boys went, and they went on the slide, and they weren't heavy enough. And it blew them up into the air, and there's some rings underneath or over above the slide, and he hit that going like 60 miles an hour. So it was pretty brutal, but I don't want to get into that part so much of it, as he ended up getting charged for murder. He and some of the other, people in the office got charged for murder, for negligence, and for rushing that slide and everything. And then while he's on trial for murder and going back and forth between New Braunfels and Kansas to deal with that, he gets caught in a hotel room trying to buy prostitutes with Schlitterbahn gift cards. And the sex trafficker got upset because he was trying to pay in Schlitterbahn gift cards, and that caused a commotion, which the police got called.
Man, it's better than cash. You get to take the whole family with it.
It was something like 10 Schlitterbahn gift cards,
Take your family
for her services. So he really burned out hard and fade away. So
I wonder how much was on each of those 10 gift cards. Is that wrong of me to wonder?
I'd say it's about $500 value for sure. It's $50 a trip. So yeah, that's a good value.
Pretty good, yeah.
I don't know. But, he really would have been a working man's hero, like a hero to anyone who didn't graduate, anyone who doesn't have a degree, self-made man in so many ways. But he really couldn't get out of his own way, and just, being bigger, badder than everybody else as well. His hubris got to him, and a tragic story for sure, but also kind of comical that he's paying for stuff with a Schlitterbahn card and everything. So yeah, that's the basis of the story. I probably hyped it up for too many years, and I'm also trying to not, drag on for an hour. But yeah, that's essentially it, man. And I love that place. They have since sold it. That family no longer owns it. So the people that own Six Flags have bought it, and so I don't feel, bad supporting them. And we do love going every year, and it really is a special place. And it's such a sad thing that it happened. I went to school with their family, with some of their kids, and
sounds tragic there.
Yeah, it really is. But I don't know why I feel so need to hype that up for a year and a half. But yeah, man, it's a crazy story.
It's funny you said the guy, the family who bought it, the guy designed a bunch of the like stuff himself. You mentioned Action Park when you were like introing it's remarkably similar. Like that guy was designing stuff himself. I can't remember something Hill, but I can't remember what the guy's name was. But he was like designing all the stuff himself, and like half of those rides were wildly unsafe, and the other were just sort of unsafe. And like those, like the 70s, the early 80s or whatever, just a wild time for the theme park industry in general.
None of the Schlitterbahn engineers that were responsible for that ride had engineering degrees.
Yeah,
They were
none of
all
them were
just
actually engineers. Yeah, no, that sounds exactly
building
like
a slide.
Ackenberg right there.
Yeah.
Air quote engineer.
All right. Well, I did pretty good at keeping it brief, at least.
It was succinct and well told. You know, it involved everything. It involved drugs, prostitution, tragedy. You know, a family fun for your family. You know, everything.
My favorite part was you trying to figure out the prostitution gift card exchange rate.
Listen, it's good to know. You have to look into these things, because what if that comes up on another episode? Then I'll know for the future.
The state representative is now the attorney general, and he got sent some what's the white powder, anthrax, in the mail, like within the last year or so. And that's when I went into chat and I was like, well, I have an update on the Schlitterbahn story, but it's, you know, the guy got an anthrax sent in the mail. It was unrelated to the Schlitterbahn.
I was going to say,
but
do they know? Was it that guy
I don't
getting
know what
anthrax
happened.
sent from prison or something? Like
yeah, he's just the attorney general, so he gets picked on, I guess. But
yeah,
you know, they actually, this is little, you know, PS to the story. They made it to where you can't sue in Kansas, and so he had to sue Schlitterbahn in Texas instead of being able to sue them in Kansas.
Well, you said he was traveling back and forth from Texas to Kansas. I was like, why would he be going to Kansas? It seems like the jurisdiction would be in Texas, like they would have, you know, the right to try there.
Yeah, I don't. The Kansas House of Representatives made it to where you can't go after people in the businesses for as much money as you could in Texas, and so they chose to sue them in Texas instead of suing them in Kansas because of the law that he passed that stopped him from being able to. You know, I digress.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Let's mock.
Pro transition.
Yeah. He just took over hosting duties right there. He's like, all right, we're done with this. Let's move on. We're gonna mock. All right. You heard the man. All right. So we're gonna do a first round mock draft. We did this last year. We're gonna do it as though we're drafting for the teams in our league, using the managers who currently have the picks 1 through 12, which means that all three of us have picks in that range, and none of us will be making our own selections. Except for possibly Al at 12. I don't know. We'll figure that out when we get there.
Yeah, we will.
We're going to use Jordan Reed's ESPN mock draft that was posted about a week ago. So
it's already old news.
March 3rd, I think it was.
So it's already ruined.
Yeah. No, this was his mock that we're using was posted before the start of the tampering period and the start of free agency. So already a couple of things obviously have changed. To point out one, he's got Vegas drafting Jackson Dart at 37. They just acquired Geno Smith, so that seems a little bit less likely, but not impossible. He's got Omarion Hampton going to the Chargers at 22. They just signed Najee Harris. So we're gonna leave his draft or his mock draft unchanged. So we're gonna be reacting and drafting as though these guys were going to these teams anyways, even with the signings and the trades that have taken place.
Listen, it's fine, because by the time this gets edited and is available for public consumption, everything will change again.
We'll be post actual NFL draft at that point. We'll have real landing spots. Everyone will be like, what the hell were you people doing? All right. We're going to do spots 1 through 12. In our league currently, I have the 101 and the 103, which made it real easy to assign which draft spot I was going to get. So I'll be taking the second draft spot. Big wanted to show us what he's got at 101. So he's going to take 1, 4, 7, and 10. I'll take 2, 5, 8, and 11. Al's going to take 3, 6, 9, and 12.
Good thing I have experience co-managing a team with you.
That's true.
I'm excited to ruin your roster here.
I mean, listen, my actual pick is third. I've already done an excellent job of ruining my roster. We don't need your assistance in that regard. All right, then let's get started. Big, you are on the clock. This is the 101. It is my current pick. It was originally attached to Mr. Good News' roster. I did look through this before we start. I should have let myself talk before this. There are only 3 teams in the league that have their own first round picks. That's Rug at 2, myself at 3, and then Mel at 10.
I'm surprised there's that many.
Yeah. Impressive job by Mel making it to the playoffs every year and still having his own first round pick pretty much every draft. Rug and I less so. All right. So 101, you're on the clock. Anytime you're ready.
All right. Well, you know what I'm going to do here.
I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to do, but it's not my pick right now. It's your pick to make.
Well, here's the theme here. Okay.
Jackson Dart.
Gino's backup. Here's the thing, guys. I have tried to refine my strategy every year. But really what it comes down to is my process. I think last time we talked about process a little bit, but my process when looking at rookies, I don't watch college football. I just need, if you have a swimming pool, are you going to jump in the deep end or are you going to start in the shallow and work your way deeper? I just like to turn on YouTube and watch a highlight reel and give myself not even the full time, a minute, 2 minutes tops. And I just want to let the prospect wash over me and, just be honest about what I'm seeing. I want to look for upside. I don't want to concentrate too much on what they can't do or all of the detractors or all of the limitations or they played out of the slot 87%. I just want to know when things go right, whether it's the blocking or the play call or they're playing a cream puff, when things go right, what does it look like? What's the ultimate ceiling? That's the first thing I'm looking for, as well as just a general first impression of the player. And I find that tends to be my best process for really kind of weeding out some of the guys I'm not interested in and really focusing in on the guys that I have like a steady drum before all off season and I'm really excited for by the time they come around. And I'm trying to stay true to that process. I understand the reasons why this pick may not be accepted by the general community, but I'm making the pick that I think is true to myself, true to what I thought the first day that I turned on the tape, and that I think is a better dynasty pick than a running back for a non-contending team. So I'm taking Tet McMillan, 101, the best wide receiver in this draft. And he can stand up to all the guys that have come in the past few years. I don't think that this is some, it is a weak wide receiver class overall, but he is not a weak wide receiver at the top of the class.
Yeah, he definitely got premium draft pick in this mock. He went to 12 to Dallas. There's a huge target vacuum on that team outside of CeeDee Lamb. So, I mean, he's potentially walking into a really good situation, a clear room. They really didn't have a second useful receiver last year. They trotted out Jalen Tolbert and Brandon Cooks for a few games. I mean, they really didn't have anybody there. They could certainly use someone else to soak up targets.
Yeah, and that's, I was going to take this guy if he was mocked in the 7th round to, a UFL team, like this was going to be my 101. So I don't love the landing spot, obviously here as CD's number 2, but he's the player that I will worry about situation later, and I'm just going to let talent win out. I'm going to take the guy that has the biggest gap between him and the second guy behind him, and that's Tet for me. I
mean, we've seen 2 receivers both put up near wide receiver 1 ceilings on the same team before. It's not unprecedented.
Also, I actually like the fit with with Lamb. Lamb plays out of the slot a lot, and
Right.
I don't think you want Tet playing out of the slot.
Yeah,
Dak
for
is
a
a good enough
101.
quarterback to get the ball to both of these guys. Like,
Yeah, and Ted is immediately the number one red zone option on the team.
Yeah, the limitation though, it being that CD's not a fading asset by any means. It's
No,
not like
exactly.
a Mike Evans or somebody like that you could see Ted is the guy of the future. It's like presumably he will be the number 2 there forever because they'll keep extending CD and So I don't love the landing spot, but I'm taking the player no matter what.
Yeah, it
Landing
makes
spot be
perfect sense.
damned.
Yeah,
And frankly, for a 101, I'm not paying attention to the landing spot anyway.
yeah. If you're looking at the top prospects, landing spot becomes less important. It becomes more important when you're looking at guys later down the line.
Yeah, and comparing him to the other wide receivers in this class, there's a chasm based on where they went in this mock. I mean, the next receivers went in the 20s, and the first one was Golden, who went to Pittsburgh, who now has DK and Pickens,
DK and Pickens,
assuming
yeah.
they both stay there. So, I mean, you're talking about a big difference in just from the second receiver drafted to Ted.
That's also if you consider Hunter goes to New England at 4 in this. We don't know
Right.
usage.
Reed listed him as a cornerback and receiver. So.
Yeah, I wrote him down on my list because he's gonna get drafted in pretty much every fantasy league. Who knows where? Who knows? It'll be informed a lot by where he lands in the real NFL draft and what the team says about him. Obviously.
Well, yeah, that's what we'll see in this draft. When does the reward outweigh the risk?
Exactly. All right, so Tet 101 helps my wide receiver room, which is the room that needs a lot of work. At the second pick, Ruggs got that pick, and I'm going to be picking for Rugg this evening. It's his own pick. He's got a very interesting team. He's got a McMillan of his own, but it's Jalen, not Tet. You just said a second ago it's not a fading asset like Mike Williams. I was like, if we have McMillan and McMillan on the same team in the real life NFL, it's going to be a nightmare watching box scores and listening to the announcing. So let's hope he doesn't go there. But anyway, I'm looking at Rugg's team. He and I were in an interesting spot last year. We were very, very, very close to each other in max points for. He barely got the number 2 pick over my number 3 pick. If only someone had listened to you two and traded away Russell Wilson, this never would have happened. But actually, his team, in my opinion, is in a pretty good spot. I would have absolutely considered Tet for him here, but I think he is closer to competing than having the second overall pick would imply. He's got some guys from last year's draft that really stepped up in value. Brian Thomas, Jaden Daniels, obviously Marvin Harrison. He got last year, didn't have the huge jump in value, but I mean he started off pretty high in value, and I'm sure he'll do pretty impressive things this year. So he's got young talent on the team at the wide receiver position, at the quarterback position. He's got Drake May as well. Not looking there. If I'm him, I'm just going to take Ashton Genty. I don't see any reason not to. He needs running backs. I think his team is close to competing. I think it's the best value for him here. It's what I would do if I was in his spot.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Dynasty Daddy has him the number 2 overall receiving group and the number 2 overall quarterback group. So the quickest way to be a competitive team is to fill the biggest hole, which is clearly at running back.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean his tight end room isn't the strongest, but I that's not what I would want to do in his shoes in this instance. I want the sure, like the essentially sure thing with Ashton Genty.
I think Rugg would be very excited if I actually had the 101 in real life in order for this to really happen. Here's my question. I think he's clearly the best running back. I am not one of these people that flirts with Hampton over him. But is the depth of the position enough to make you feel like, at all like you want to flirt with a wide receiver, a quarterback, a tight end, anything but a running back this high when you can get really, really good running backs in the 3rd and 4th round.
Not when he goes 6 overall. When a running back goes 6 overall in the NFL draft, that tells you that you're looking at the NFL, what the NFL believes to be a special player. Guys that get drafted in that range are pretty much locks to get 20 plus touches a game as rookies. If you look historically at the guys that have gone in this spot, for better or for worse, even if they're Trent Richardson, they're still locked into a big workload for a couple of years, even if they're not good. I mean, that's all you want in fantasy production. He's going to walk into the best possible situation. The NFL is saying, well, there's a big gap here. No one else went. The next running back went in the 20s. The other guys went in the 2nd round. I mean, that's all it says to me.
Yeah, we should mention this mock has Genty going 6 overall to Vegas. You said 6, but we didn't actually specify. It's to Vegas in that instance. So this would be joining a team that is clearly making moves to improve the offense in a big way. Oh, I want to answer your question. You asked the question. Al answered it. I didn't. In this instance, I'm looking at Ruggs' team and his other draft picks. He has the 102, and then he doesn't pick again until 205 and 210. At that point, I think that there will still be decent running back options available, but I think most of the guys that are considered in the first few tiers of running back won't be available. And a guy like Genty's an anchor in a way that a lot of those other guys might and probably won't be. So even considering positional availability and scarcity and value, no, in this instance, I think it's the way to go.
I don't disagree. I agree with both of you, and I will be taking him in a few leagues where I have 101 and need a running back. This would be a TET league for me. I don't like running back 101 years in general. Typically, that's a non-competitive team, and there's always going to be a concern for me. Usually, though, when you have an early round running back like this, it's only one. And I feel like this is definitely a year where we might have multiple 1st round draft capital running backs. And I do think that the difference between him and I'm talking about fantasy point production difference, not talent difference. It may not be worth the high pick if you have an opportunity to get a guy like that with a later pick. It depends on your pick set, really. If you've got the traditional 101, 201, 301, that changes things. Whereas if you have, like Jarsal 101, 103, I think that's a Genty all day. Like there's no reason to go any other direction with that pick. But,
like Ted?
Right. I mean, yeah, no, exactly. I did it because I was going to do it no matter what. I got that one out of the way. But I think if I'm you and I have 101, 103, then it's Genty for sure. So I guess that kind of blows up our exercise so far, but at least we're talking about it.
Listen, it's more exciting when we do things that make us actually think and exercise and ponder the what if.
I just want to get out there that I'm not doing it just to be a contrarian, and I'm not low on Genty. I watch the tape and I see the talent that everyone is raving about. It's obvious. I'm not trying to, sound like a football hipster and pull some running back out of my ass that's gonna, outproduce him. He's the guy. Yeah. Clearly.
I had a question. Who does he look like to you? Do you have a comp?
Oh, I'm bad with comps.
We'll ask Al. Al, do you have a comp?
Jamal Charles.
Okay. All right.
He just never goes down.
Right. He has that thing where he never takes full contact. Somehow he
bounces off like it's
right.
weird.
Jamal Charles is the first guy I thought of when I don't think he's got the long speed that Charles had. That was crazy. But just the way he runs where Kamara does this too. Somehow he gets hit and like the force just
slides.
He just kind of relaxes at the right moment. The force transfers through him somehow, and he just stays upright. I don't understand how it works. I'm not a physics person, but when you see it, it's just incredible. He he never takes full contact. He breaks so many tackles. I know it was the Mountain West, and you're not talking about the greatest competition, but yeah, nobody was even close to him.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
To me, he looks like Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yeah, he's got the similar build, and he's got a little bowling ball.
It's like he's got the stiff arm that doesn't look like it should work, but then does.
Right, he's got tiny little arms.
Yeah. He's fun to watch. All right, so that's Rugg at number 2. So we got Tet and Genty off the board. This is not shocking to anyone yet. So third pick, that would be my pick again, and it's my actual own pick. Al, you're making it for me. Go ahead.
Right now, considering your love of tight ends, for this actual pick, I would think that you would take a tight end, but I'm in control of your team, so we're not going tight end because you already have the number 1 tight end room in the league. You have the number 1 quarterback room in the league. So I'm not going to force a Cam Ward here, even though he went 101 to your New York Giants in this mock draft.
That don't be ridiculous. They're never doing that.
So actually, we got Tet checked off. That helps the receiver room. So I mean, the biggest potential difference maker for your roster would be to add to your running back room. Unfortunately, Genty didn't slide one more pick like I was hoping. You did what I would have done and taken him 102 to Rugg's roster. He's in a very similar spot. The two of you have essentially nothing at running back. So the biggest way to add points to this roster.
He's got Khalil Herbert.
Your Isaac Garendo still puts you the 11th best running back room behind him at 10th best.
He's actually got a couple of, real backups. I've got like one.
So the pick I'm going to make here is Amarian Hampton, running back UNC, who went to the Los Angeles Chargers at pick 22 in the first round. We know the Chargers want to run the ball. I know they just signed Najee Harris to a 1-year deal today, but that would not stop me from taking Amari Hampton.
I love Hampton.
I have to credit someone else for this. It was Lance Zierlein said he runs like he's blind. But he didn't mean it as a bad thing. He's just like, he runs straight into the line violently, like he doesn't care what he's going to hit. And he's just like, one track mind. But he didn't, he meant it as a compliment as much as that can be. And I agree with it. I see it.
He runs downhill. He goes north-south.
Yeah, I think the vision can be questionable at times, but he's just so well-rounded. He was a good receiver out of the backfield. He was a good runner, power, outside, inside. He can block. He does everything. This is exactly what you're looking for. Guys that have potential to be a 3-down bell cow. There's not a lot of running backs that do that in the NFL anymore. So when you get a chance to draft a guy that could potentially fill a role like that, it's hard to pass. Genty's another guy that kind of fills that mold. I'm not spending premium capital on a guy that's going to be a 2-down player. So when you're looking at the differences of, there's a lot of running backs in this class, maybe 30 guys that could get drafted into the NFL draft. The guys that separate are the ones that can potentially impact 3 downs.
I don't watch college, but I get the opinion that he's just very violent with his body and takes a lot of just massive falls and hits. And is there injury concern there?
Seems like UNC has a type, right? We saw Javonte Williams come out of UNC a couple of years ago. They have a very, very similar style.
I saw a few clips where you just get whirlwind up in the air and then just come crashing down.
No regard to human life.
Yeah. I guess that'll happen if you're blind. So what were we going to say, Jar?
I was going to say something similar, actually. He profiles to me as one of those wear down the defense guys where the first quarter, whatever, you give him some, or the first half, you make sure you get him his touches. And then later on in the game, he's the one delivering hits instead of getting hit, essentially.
We know he's going to a Greg Roman offense, and we know what they want to do with the ball. As much as we saw Justin Herbert throw 50 times a game down the stretch, that's not how they would prefer to run the offense.
I don't know.
Happened to
I think
coincide
they,
with J.K.
I think
Dobbins
they
missing
saw it
some time.
working well though. Like I think that those guys have things that they want to do, but they're also smart enough to recognize what actually works. And Herbert throwing the ball is gonna work.
Well, yeah, J.K. was hurt, so the alternative was the shell of Gus Edwards or Hassan Haskins. Kamani Vidal got in there for a couple of series. It wasn't great. Much better to throw Herbert 50 times a game. Now, when you got Najee Harris and Amari and Hampton, you're probably going to run 50 times a game.
I'd be thrilled with that. I think he's a guy who can handle a full workload. He's one of my favorite running backs that I've watched. And like I said, you or not like I said, what like you said, UNC as a type. That's also your type. You want guys that like bring contact and invite
Violence.
contact.
I like violence at the running back position.
All right. So
Well,
Hampton.
how much are you paying to go from Hampton to Genty?
What do you mean?
Talking about that positional scarcity question from when we took Genty. If you've got 103 and let's
Yeah.
say Genty did fall to 102, are you just going to comfortably take Hampton and just take the consolation prize, or are you going to put some actual capital to move up one spot?
It's definitely a
Quickly.
different tier. It's definitely a different tier.
Okay.
I would pay to move up. There's a difference there for me. But right now, Hampton's the best player on the board, so I would take him here. But yeah, if I have the opportunity to move up and the cost is somewhat reasonable, I'd definitely pull the trigger. There's a difference for me.
Okay.
I plead the fifth. These are my actual picks.
Right. You can abstain.
Fun answer.
Huh?
Fun answer.
Well, here's the thing. I've actually
Ruining his leverage.
Well, I've considered this. Like, is it worth trying to trade up from 3 to 2? Like, I don't know if Rugg is interested in moving back. If you have 2 picks in a row, you control the board in a way that you don't if you have 2 out of 3 picks. It's a different situation. I could, like if this draft played out this way, if I took Ted at 1, I'm thinking, oh, is he gonna take Genty? Is he not? Probably is, but if I wanted Hampton anyways, well then it didn't matter. But if I wanted Genty for sure, I'd have to take him at the top, and then I'm risking losing Tet. And
yeah, there's some gamesmanship
it's one of those
involved.
where I have to decide. Do I want to try to make a Godfather offer? Probably not. Is Rugg interested in a lower offer? Probably not. So we'll see what happens. So that's Ted at 1, Genty and Hampton at 2 and 3. Interesting that we have 2 running backs, and both of these teams are clear rebuilding teams. So
Right.
I don't know if you guys are that far away. I mean, Dynasty Daddy has you in the contender tier and Rugg in the frisky tier. In this league, it's very top heavy, but there's
I
definitely
do
a
not
couple
belong
of
in
playoff
the
spots open.
contender tier. I am not a contender. I
You
might be a contender for that 6th playoff spot, but not a contender for the title.
Okay, well, if you're in the top 8 teams, then you're a playoff contender, right? The last spot has been around 500 the last couple of years, so it's
It's a possibility.
we're very top heavy, but there are teams that can sneak in there. There's usually a handful that are kind of lumped together.
Yeah. Speaking of lumped together and rebuilding teams, picks 4 and 5 belong to Mr. Good News. So pick 4, Big, you're up. Show us what you got.
Well,
He needs
I can-
everything.
yeah, I've got a pretty blank slate to work with here. Wild that quarterbacks are still not even being considered. Or I guess they're there. They're on the list, but I'm not going to take one. So
not considered by you, apparently.
well, he's also got 105. So I guess maybe he would think about one next round, or next pick. But I'm going to take the guy that I considered at 101. I actually think the landing spot is fun to talk about. I don't know if it's good for fantasy, but it's fun to talk about. I'm going to take Tyler Warren.
Yep.
The New Orleans tight end, the Taysom Hill replacement.
Yep. Pick by New Orleans at number 9 in this mock.
That's awesome draft capital.
Yeah, 9 overall for a tight end.
Very, very impressive.
And I do think he's legitimately in the short conversation for 101 in a LAN type league. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think he's being drafted in the right area here. And
Al, people can't see you shrugging and making faces.
you got to think about it.
He is in play at anywhere in this draft, starting at 101. If he goes top 10 to the NFL draft to a team like the Saints who are lacking weapons, I mean, he's going into a pretty good situation with really good draft capital. In our league that's tight end starved, a guy that can impact the game potentially multiple ways. They used him a lot as a wildcat quarterback. That's a role that they definitely used, Taysom Hill in last year. I don't know if you can get a better fit. There's a very strong argument for him to be 101.
He's a stud. He's a legitimate stud. It's fun because you see his versatility in the wildcat quarterback stuff. He's like, Taysom Hill's a tight end that shades more to a quarterback. He's definitely a versatile weapon that shades more to a tight end, but he can block, and he's gonna stay on the field no matter where he gets drafted. And he's not going to be a receiving specialist, but he can catch better than any of the tight ends in this class. He's well-rounded. It's pretty fun. I like the landing spot. I think he's definitely a bona fide stud.
Oh man, he's just such a fun player. Just a fun player to watch. You're talking about watching highlights. He's a fun player.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He was the first guy where I watch. So when I watch to learn a rookie, I generally will go, watch all their plays against a couple of different teams. And then after I've seen like 3 or 4 games, I'll be like, all right, now I'm going to go watch the highlight reel. Cause I want to get I want to see the big plays, see the ones that get everybody excited. I don't want to start there though. Cause if I start there, I'm just going to be excited about everyone. But he was the first guy this year where I watched the highlight reel and I was like, going to find another highlight reel now. Let's keep doing this.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's just a good afternoon.
He does everything. It's great.
Yeah. I'm very happy with that pick. I was thinking about all day. This was a dream scenario for me. So I like it.
And it makes a lot of sense for a team that is in a full rebuild. Now, Mr. Good News has a lot of picks in this year and next year and maybe even the year after. I'm not sure how far out his draft capital goes, but he's got a lot of picks and a lot of work to do on that roster. 3 first-round picks this year, 2 second-round picks. I think like 15 overall, something like that.
Yeah, he's basically got nothing but picks. Yeah.
He's got 3 first-round picks in 26. Or actually, he's got 3 picks in every round of 26 because he has Flea's and Big's entire draft class those years, which is just insane. But taking someone at the tight end position here makes a bit of sense because even if Warren starts off slow like a lot of tight ends have in the past. Now, obviously, we've seen the last few years rookie tight ends and young tight ends produce more earlier, but generally it was you wanted a tight end at year 3. If Warren takes until year 3 to start real production, it's not that big a deal. He wasn't going to be competitive in the first 2 years anyways.
Yeah, you got to be honest about the timeline of this roster. Drafting a running back is just a waste unless you're drafting them hoping they produce and you can trade them for more than you drafted them for, because running backs are generally the most productive their first couple of years. This roster has nothing. It's more than a couple of years away before he's going to be anywhere close to competitive. So
a couple of years from being a couple of years away.
Right. So it makes sense to kind of lean towards if you're going to draft somebody, which eventually he has to start drafting players. He can't just continue to have nothing but picks on this team. So you're looking at guys that maybe have a longer longer lifespan. If this was my pick and this was my team, then the first thing I would do is try to trade it for more picks because he just needs so many pieces. The more assets he can accumulate, the better.
You say that about every pick.
But this situation specifically, he really has to fill like 30 spots. So
well, he's got 15 picks this year and next year. Right. More than that next year.
Yeah, but how many of those are 3rd, 4th, 5th round dart throw picks that may
Oh,
never see the light of day.
a good amount, but I mean that doesn't. It doesn't matter if you're making that many attempts at it. You're gonna hit a couple.
Right, but he needs like 30.
Yeah.
So
What is it? Quantity has a quality all its own.
yes.
This is the second time I've used that on this podcast. No, it's a smart pick. It's a good pick. It's it's one that fits team need for rebuilding and team need for the as you said style of league. Land obviously tight end heavy.
And a question for Al. There's often tight ends, like let's say Michael Mayer, recent example, that is like a top tier prospect because they're all around tight ends, not necessarily fantasy friendly tight ends. Does Warren have any threat of being another Mayer because he's such a good blocker, or is he, is he gonna be fantasy friendly?
I mean, if you're taking him in the top 10 of the NFL draft, I would hope it's not solely for his blocking.
That's true.
Turning him into a
Good point.
A blocking tight end would be a horrible mismanagement of draft capital by the Saints, but you never know. I mean, we see weird things happen all the time.
As someone trying to play catch up to the people who have been watching college football all year, that's always a trap. Are those tight ends that are ranked highly on mock drafts because they're all around tight ends or blocking specialists, and you just think, I'm going to take the next tight end on the list, not realizing that guy is Mercedes Lewis or something. And but Warren's not that guy, right? Like, he's a badass blocker, but he's also, he makes one-handed grabs and amazing circus catches.
Yeah, he was the offense. This is not a guy like Tip Raymond going to the Cardinals last year in the third round, who basically did nothing in college besides block. Tyler Warren was the Penn State offense for most of the season. I mean, he was the engine to the team. So I would have a lot less fear of him being turned into just a
don't appreciate you disparaging my practice squad players like that.
You can drop that one, buddy.
On my taxi, in case you were curious.
You can drop that one.
Probably, yes. And here's the thing: I knew that going into it too, but
Hey, Big's in the league. I might as well hold on to this tight end from the Cardinals.
This is another John Bates, isn't it?
Listen, I maintain.
Do you still have John Bates on your practice?
I maintain that Bates is a good player.
He caught like 4 passes in college.
Not important. It was him or the international guy. Was it Reyes? Come on. No,
Samus Reyes.
All right. Don't hear what I'm not saying here. Warren is a really good blocker, but he's one of the guys who we're seeing now who basically grew up watching guys like Gronkowski play, and Gronk was the best blocking tight end in the league, but obviously still used extensively in the pass game. And obviously Warren is not Gronk. I'm not saying he's going to be Gronk, but he's in that mold where, yes, he's a really good blocker, but he's also going to go do the other things.
Right. He's dynamic in a way that a lot of guys that get pigeonholed as blockers aren't.
Yeah.
I know he didn't run at the combine, but I'm sure we'll see him at his pro day. And I have no doubt, because of Penn State's history of producing athletic freaks, he'll probably be along the same vein.
Yeah. That's what I was hoping. I just didn't want to, fall into that trap. So
yeah, the only concern for me is that it took him until he was like 26 years old to finally produce. But he was behind a couple of guys who are now starting tight ends in the NFL, like the Giants' Theo Johnson. So I mean, there's some excuse. Tight ends usually take a while to develop, even in college.
For the record, he's 22 still.
That's really the only blemish, that he's like a 5th-year guy, and he didn't really do anything until this point.
Yeah, it is a bit of a concern.
Everything else is fantastic in the profile.
Yeah, really is. And Big, I don't want to make it sound like I'm a guy who watches a lot of college football, because I'm not. So take my words with a grain of salt as well. I watch lots and lots of highlights and lots of the plays. Like I spent, I don't know, probably half an hour watching Tyler Warren blocking film. So
yeah,
it's even that's fun to watch.
It is. It was. That's why I kept doing it. Honestly, I probably spent more time on him than any non-quarterback in this one. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Not quite,
speaking
not
of
quite Tommy Tremble blocking film, but
Tommy Trevor just got a new contract. You see
The
that?
next
Yeah.
George Kittle.
because he's a great blocker.
Yeah, well, he'll
It
do it.
matters in the NFL. It doesn't for fantasy, but those
Right.
guys get paid. The Jaguars just signed Johnny Munt and your friend Hunter Long.
That's not my friend. That's your friend. Don't put Hunter Long on me. That is your guy. We're up to pick 105. This is Mr. Good News' second back-to-back pick here. I forgot to mention the last one, his fourth overall originally belonged to JMC. This fifth overall originally belonged to Criddle. I'm going to be making this selection. We talked about this team. It needs everything. It's kind of a boring pick that I'm about to make. It's kind of a chalk pick. But in this mock, we have Reed has the Giants trading up to 1 overall and drafting Cam Ward. It seems a little silly to be sitting here at the 5th pick on a team that isn't going to be competing soon and ignore a quarterback drafted 1 overall in the NFL draft. Like I said, it's boring, it's chalk, but it makes the most sense for what his roster is right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, you have to make this pick if you're Mr. Good News. If quarterback 1 is still available at pick 5 in a superflex and you have no quarterbacks on your roster, I mean, you have to make that pick, whether you think he's going to be good or not.
Yeah. It's just, it's partially about value. It's partially about the same thing that I said with Warren. If it takes him a couple years to be good, that's not that big a deal. Like, outside of the, Jaden Daniels, RG3, like rookie phenom seasons, most rookie quarterbacks are not great for fantasy purposes. Now we're in a best ball, which mitigates that a little bit, and they have a great game. It's worthwhile to have them. And I guess I should have included Bo Nix in that tier. But for the most part, rookie quarterbacks don't produce big numbers. Even second year quarterbacks a lot of the time don't produce big numbers. But, once you get past that, if he's still the starter, he'll be in his fantasy prime essentially.
Yep, fits his timeline.
At this point in the draft, it makes so much sense. And for this roster, it makes so much sense. It's not a bad pick by any means. I just can't.
He hates it.
I can't get into Cam Ward in comparison to the 2 guys behind him. I just don't see a gap. So I'm just going to wait until 2 of them are gone, and I'll take the 3rd one.
Yeah, I think Cam Ward has a lot of the traits you look for high-end starting quarterbacks. Unfortunately, he also has a lot of the traits you see in major busts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
you can say Will Levis. It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, not just him, but a lot of this stuff historically. He produces a lot of big plays, but he also produces a lot of turnovers. So, I mean, these are things that if he can rein it in, if he gets in the right system, which clearly the New York Giants have been renowned for developing quarterbacks. This is a team that historically has been great at it. So I'm sure that with a coach
Daniel
and a
Jones
GM,
got a 4-year contract.
coach and a GM on the hot seat that may not be there next year. Could this be a Justin Fields situation? It's not great, but
Tennessee needs a quarterback. And the interesting thing about this mock is they traded the pick away. And so that,
also speaks volumes.
You're right. That says a lot. And
because they have Will Levis on there. This is their only quarterback right now.
Right. Why get another one? A 0-star recruit, a incarnate word quarterback. I just don't see it, man. I just don't see it. But at 105 for this roster, you got to take the guy that just got drafted 101. So it's the right pick. I didn't want to make it.
Like you said, shoot for the ceiling. I mean, his ultimate ceiling is that he's a potentially impactful fantasy quarterback. It may be that this is just a really weak class, so he's being pushed up by default because the NFL is always quarterback hungry. But if he actually goes 101, unless he's Josh Rosen, he's going to get at least a couple of years of at least starting.
I'd love to see someone come along and actually make a case for him instead of just settle for him, though. Like, I feel like it's just, what is he doing that even has him in this conversation. It's just such a bad class. I don't know.
I think he's got traits that you look for when you're talking about guys that could develop into top end quarterbacks. You know, he produces a lot of big plays. He's got the arm strength to make all the throws.
He's got a good arm. He's good in the pocket.
He moved. You're talking about a guy that moved up tremendously. Three different schools, all were huge tier jumps in competition, and all were more productive than the season before. So you're looking at growth. The guy was productive in a lot of different types of offenses, a lot of different situations. I mean, there's some projectable ceiling there with him. But yeah, you know, this guy would not be in the top 6 quarterbacks in last year's class.
Right.
This is what we got this year.
Like I said, most of it is positional need and draft capital informing this pick. It's not, I'm not here to tell you that I think Ward's a great, you know, guy in the making. I think that he could very well continue to develop. Like, you know, development isn't linear and everything, but like Al said, he's basically gotten better every stop of the way. And if that continues, he will be a long-term NFL starter.
Yeah, if you want even more background on him, he played in high school in a wishbone, which is why he wasn't recruited. He threw like 5 passes a game in high school. So
there you go. He's from Texas, right? Big, yeah. Isn't he? Isn't he down your way?
That went over my head. I wouldn't know. I mean, I know he played at Incarnate Word, which is in San Antonio.
Yeah, he's a Texas guy.
Okay, that checks out.
Let's see, West Columbia, Texas. Okay,
Yep.
I have no idea where West Columbia is.
That's probably a Houston suburb. That's
I'm looking now.
That's my guess.
Yep, it is just outside of Houston, a little bit to the east, I think. All right, well, there you go. I don't know how to feel about a couple things with Ward. He's one of those guys who is in the same bucket as like Bo Nix and Jane Daniels, where they have so many college starts that like they've got enough experience playing now that I wonder if that will help them at the next level. Like they've seen enough things. You know, he's got 57 college starts. That's a lot.
He's run a lot of different offenses as well, because he's been 3 different programs that run very different offenses, and he's turned himself into a legitimate prospect. He wasn't 3 years ago to where he is now. Yeah,
his tape year over year is very different to watch.
Yep. Yeah, he's gotten much better.
And I'm trying to weigh the newer stuff a little bit more than the older stuff, because obviously, you know, we see the progression and he's getting better. You know, do you want to fault him for things that he's obviously corrected and improved? You know, I had Daniels lower last year than obviously I should have, and part of that could have been that I spent almost as much time watching the Arizona State that he was at? Arizona State tape as the LSU stuff.
Yeah, it was the same thing with Bo Nix. Both of those guys struggled mightily in their first stops.
Yeah.
And kind of turned themselves into legitimate prospects later at different schools.
There's a little bit of a trend of coaches valuing that more so than in the past as well.
They have to. Otherwise, I mean, Cam Ward would not be the 101 starting his college career at Incarnate Ward.
This is Incarnate
Word. Like that would not happen how many years ago?
He can do some stuff. I don't mean to be so negative. It's just you know, I obviously have a pet project lined up behind him, and I'm waiting for that guy.
We'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, in this draft, in this mock, we saw the 2 big name quarterbacks go 101, 102. So the NFL probably doesn't see a big separation there either, if this is what actually happens.
So we're going to move on to our 6th pick. This pick is currently mine. Al is going to be making it in our mock here. So 106, Al, you're on the clock, picking for my team.
Great, I get to make another pick for your team. Well, you're in the same situation you were in 3 picks ago.
Except for now I have Hampton.
Now you have Hampton. So what I'm going to do for you here is give you another running back.
I love this.
Lay it on.
That is Quinshawn Judkins. Ohio State went early in the 2nd round to Dallas. I know they just signed Javonte Williams today, but that was essentially backup money. So, Judkins is another guy that's He can play all three downs. Trevion Henderson got a lot of the hype for the pass catching. He's the more explosive player. But we saw Judkins put his athleticism on display at the combine. He ran a 4.4, which is pretty unexpected. This is a guy that looked like the future 101 as a freshman.
The guy just looks like a running back, like a starting running back too. He just physically is impressive, athletic, built in the right areas.
Yep, 5'11", 220. That's what you're looking for. Guy that can profile as a 3-down back.
Yeah, I was definitely, had eyes on him in the back half of the first. Not to say that that's a reach. I think it's a good quality pick, but
I mean, we've been waiting for Dallas to take a running back high for how many years since Zeke's been gone? Since Zeke's been gone, we've been dying for them to take somebody like this.
We've been waiting on that so long that their offensive line isn't good anymore. So, it was always to pair with that amazing offensive line that is no longer amazing. So, and as far as Javonte backup money goes, that's just Jerry Jones paying for a starter right there. $3 million 1 year. That sounds right up Jerry's alley. He's going to be dead before too long. So
that's DJ Dallas money.
That's pretty sad money, but I like the signing nonetheless. But if Judkins goes to Dallas in real life, then I'm very scared for my Javonte reborn season. So he'll be a good player there.
In that case, I'll be happy I didn't trade for Javonte.
I have so many shares. I need this.
I think I have one.
It's a wide open running back room currently until they actually draft somebody.
Judkins, he was part of the, what do you want to call it, the tandem of running backs there. He's the one that projects as a bit of a do everything guy as opposed to like a specialist. So this is two running backs here that you've drafted for my team that are both legit guys with good floors, very likely, and still some ceiling play. So you're drafting a specific type here.
Yep, both of them are 220 plus pounds. Both of them contributed on all three downs in college. Both of them ran 4.4s at the combine, so we see the athleticism is there. So you got the ceiling of the high upside athletic guys.
Yep.
Yeah, these are the type of guys that you want to spend premium picks on, guys that could potentially fill a bell cow role.
He looked pretty bad in pass protection to me. They didn't use him a ton there from what I could tell, but when he did it, it wasn't great.
Trevion Henderson, his backfield mate, is probably the best pass blocking running back in this class.
Yeah. This is why they didn't use him much there.
Right. So there's a lot more opportunity for Trevion. But again, running backs, a lot of running backs coming out of college are not great pass protectors. There's sometimes different schemes that you see in the NFL. It's a skill that can be learned. It's generally an effort.
Yeah.
He's got the size to do it. Effort shouldn't be a problem. So hopefully something they can teach him. I don't think it will. It may limit him early, especially pairing him with a guy like Javonte, who's got a lot of experience.
Very good at it as well.
Yep. And he's another guy that turned himself into a good pass protector. He wasn't a good pass protector when he came out. He is now a good pass protector.
I like Judkins. He's another one of the guys where you watch him and you're like, it's hard to find a legitimate flaw to the game. He's talented in almost every area. All right, so that's pick number 6. As we get to pick 7 and 8 are both going to the same team. We got JMC back to back at 7. Big will be picking at 8. I will be picking. These picks originally belonged to Al and Judd. These a couple playoff teams who bought some pieces at the end of the season there. So, Big, you're up at number 7 for JMC's roster.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with the knowing what I know now.
That's always dangerous. We don't know very much right now.
We don't know very much right now. I'm gonna take a guy that I think we're all skipping over. It's best ball, so I like him a little bit more. And I'm going to assume that he's going to get more time at wide receiver than we think. And I'm going to take Travis Hunter.
All right.
Here it is.
At 106.
I was wondering when he was going to come off the board.
This is not something I would do in a lineup league. I'm really leaning into the catch-all element of of our setup here. Not having to choose your spots with this guy makes him just a talent instead of someone that you're risking every week. You just get to catch all the good things that happen. And I think that the talent is so much that they just won't be able to not play him. So I'm going to take the risk there, especially because it's JMC's pick, not mine.
And with respect to your Tatlove, Hunter is the best receiver in this class. If he plays receiver full time, he's the best receiver in this class.
Hey, you're not the only one who thinks that, and
No,
I don't mean me. I
know
just
I'm
mean
not.
in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see. I still like Tet just because I tend to shade more to the guys that aren't great for fantasy anymore, the big outside guys, and
Yep.
I have a hard time shaking that body type. I see the value in Hunter though. Like he really is an exceptional talent, and I really do think that he's going to get his wish and play more. It might not be his rookie year, but this is Dynasty. He's on your team going forward, and I think he's going to be a wide receiver more than he's being projected to be right now.
Yep. And we should mention in the mock he's projected at number 4 overall to New England. So
Who could use a few receivers?
Yeah.
Right.
So he'd be paired with Drake May there on a team that definitely needs receiver help in a big way.
I mean, they did sign Mac Hollins, so.
Does he return kicks at all?
Has he? God, I hope not. The man needs a rest sometime.
I think he did early, but I don't think he did the last few years. I think early in his career he was playing everywhere. I think they kind of scaled that back out of necessity.
That would I'm in a few IDP leagues, and he's definitely in 101 consideration there because those points stack. You're getting offense and defense, so I don't see how he's not the 101 in every single IDP league.
Right. That's why Shohei Ohtani goes number 1 in every fantasy draft, because he gets pitching stats and hitting stats from one spot.
And also because he's the best hitter in the league.
Well, yeah.
Right.
And also one of the best pitchers in the league.
Yeah.
I think there's some weird platforms that don't allow you to score both cornerback and wide receiver, but Sleeper's not one of them. So Sleeper IDP leagues, I'm taking Travis Hunter 101. I feel like that's just the only logical pick. It makes no sense to go any other direction.
It's almost too bad that he's a cornerback for the IDP stuff, because corners don't tend to score very many IDP points. Obviously, you need them anyways if you're doing full IDP leagues, but it's one of those where if he was playing, linebacker and tight end or something, he could be really impressive.
Right. Well, I have that overloaded IDP I've talked about several times, and I'd put him in at wide receiver there. I would put him in the wide receiver slot and let him score the defensive back points from that wide receiver slot versus putting him at defensive back, because the scoring is so jacked in that league that,
it's better to have the extra corner than it is to have a receiver.
Exactly.
That's some strange scoring right there, but hey, makes it more fun.
Right.
All right. So we've got Hunter going at 107. I was really expecting you to either pick I was not expecting wide receiver at this spot, because I think JMC could go in a lot of different directions. I don't think he wants to pick quarterback, but I think that I don't know how he feels about Shedeur, but Shedeur in this mock went 102 to Cleveland. Seeing a quarterback that went at 2 available with the 8th overall pick in a rookie draft, that personally for me would be hard to turn down. Now, this isn't my team though. I think JMC has a team that's, he was the first team out of one of the first teams out of the last teams out of the playoffs last year. So like, he was on that bubble. He was competing right up until essentially the last couple weeks. It wouldn't shock me to see him lean running back. Now, we've discussed before, we all have our own guys that we like and guys that we prefer. I haven't spoken to him about what type of running back he wants, but I could see him getting excited about Henderson. So I'm going to give him Henderson here. I think his team could use a little bit extra running back. He's got HN already on there, having two guys that are just absolute home run hitters at the running back position gives you pretty big boom potential in this mock. Henderson went 33 overall to Cleveland. So they'd be pairing Shador Sanders and Trayvon Henderson here. Henderson's one of those guys. He's fast. I mean, he's just
Explosive.
scary fast. He's a bit of an upright runner for my taste, but I like the way he's a decisive runner. I like he's patient enough to find a hole, and then when he sees it, he just hits it as hard as he can and zooms his way.
Explosive player.
I don't think he's going to see a full workload. I don't think he's going to be a 20 carry a guy game. I don't know that it's going to.
He doesn't need it. Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't need it.
You know, and we just talked about it with Judkins. Judkins wasn't used in pass protection for a reason. He wasn't used on that third down set for a reason. It's because Henderson's good at it and will see the field almost immediately at an NFL level doing those things.
Yeah, Henderson is a hellacious pass blocker. He's the best pass blocking running back in this class, in my opinion. So he's going to immediately play on third downs where you have a chance of catching a swing pass and going 70 yards to the house anytime he touches the ball.
Yeah.
And I like when the quicker, faster element of the 1-2 punch is also like just significantly better. So like Jerome Ford is gonna be the hammer, but he's just not that great. It's a poor man's Montgomery and Gibbs. Like,
sure, yeah.
You know,
that's a good.
I think Henderson is going to be so talented that you just can't keep him off the field. The landing spot is solid. When it comes to competition for touches, because Ford's going to have a role, but he's not going to have a role that keeps Henderson off the field.
I think there's no way in hell that JMC leaves a first-round tight end on the board at this pick, though.
Yeah,
considering how his roster is currently constructed. But
I thought about it.
I mean, I like the Henderson pick.
I thought about it, but
there's no way he lets tight end pass.
Sometimes we all do this. Sometimes we all fall in love with players.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that I have no idea. I haven't asked him about Henderson. I have no idea how he feels about Henderson. I could just see that happening, and I don't know. I wanted to do it.
Yeah, it was going to be Henderson if I didn't take Hunter. So
yeah, I was actually sitting there hoping that you would take Henderson, so I didn't have to, and then I could just be like, all right, he's either gonna, he could pick, just his flavor of tight end. You're probably right, Al. Tight end would have been a smart pick for me to make for his team here, but let's just pretend like he traded for a tight end.
Yep, there's still a lot of time before the actual fantasy draft, so roster could look different at that point.
So our next pick at number 9, with a pick that originally belonged to Flinch, currently being drafted by Al. Big just left. He's gone. He heard that we were about to draft his pick and he left. So currently it's just the two of us. Al, who are you drafting for Big before he gets back? Oh, damn it. We missed it. He's back.
A missed opportunity.
All right.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So 9 overall, Big's pick. Al's making it. Originally belonged to Flinch. Al, you're on the clock.
Oh, this is easy. I'm taking Colson Loveland, the actual best tight end in this draft.
Big gets Loveland. I mean, you are aware of what team need here. He's got a pretty good tight end room already.
Doesn't matter. Make a strength an even better strength. This would be my pick here. I can see Loveland going easily in the top 4 picks of our draft potentially. He's a very good player. I think personally he's better than Warren. The landing spot is probably not great by most people's thoughts, landing in Indianapolis.
I would say 14th overall to Indianapolis here.
If Richardson stays the starter, it's not a guy that's going to be able to support multiple weapons, and they already have some good weapons. Pittman,
they already have a tight end 1 with Richardson.
Well, but either Richardson is going to take another step and become a better quarterback, or he's going to get benched, and you're going to have a different quarterback in there that may be able to support many players. And like we talk about tight ends, year 1 impact, not always guaranteed. You don't always draft a guy because you're expecting him to be a tight end 1 as a rookie. This is dynasty. Big can definitely let this guy marinate on his bench or his taxi if he needs to for a year. But yeah, Loveland is an easy pick for me. I think he's a more technically sound player than Warren. He's not as good of a blocker. You're probably going to see him running more routes, and he was very
Right.
productive. We talk about guys that carried an offense. This guy was the Michigan passing offense. I think he accounted for like 50% of their yards and touchdowns this year, which is basically unheard of from the tight end position. He was the passing offense. They had no receivers. They didn't throw for many yards, so he wasn't super productive if you look at the final stats, but percentage of the actual team stats, yeah, he was about half of the entire team's yards and touchdowns.
Also, I got to
Yeah,
say,
this is
Colston, great name for a tight end.
good name. Loveland. I like that. This is what I was talking about going to our earlier conversation about, tight end one is typically ranked as such because, by the mock draft guys because he's a good blocker. And tight end two tends to be the better receiving tight end. And I think this is another example of that and was my concern with taking Warren so high. So I could see myself, as I excavate this draft class a little further, I could see myself making that same move. It sounds like Al's already there with ranking him over Warren. The landing spot here really bothers me. I do not like Indy tight end with Richardson. It's gross. The draft capital is nice, but the landing spot is just vomit.
He's not walking into as clean of a situation as Warren is going into New Orleans with basically Olave and nothing else.
Yeah, right.
Shahid, all right, but
that's not.
Shahid's not a big volume guy, right? He's not going to command 15 targets.
Yeah, I could definitely. Loveland does seem like a good player, and if he becomes the more fantasy friendly tight end one and it starts getting drafted over Warren, then I will be ecstatic. If Warren falls to 109,
right?
I'll be happy with either of those guys.
My theory was I was just going to be like in real time, Al, you just traded this pick to Big. Here you go. You're back on the clock with your own roster. That was what I was going to do.
Right. Well, there's still time.
Yeah. All right. So
not like we haven't traded during the live podcast before.
It's a fair point. All right. So that's Loveland at 9. All right. Number 10 is Mel's team. The stars have aligned. Big, you will be selecting for Mel's team. You are not allowed to sabotage him. This is Mel's own pick that he has had and never traded away. So, Big, pick 10. You're up for Mel's team. As again, I said, no sabotage.
Well.
That is not an inspiring laugh right there.
There's such a hard exercise because there's what I want to do, who I want to talk about, who I think Mel would take or should take, and
no, it's not who you want to talk about. It's not who you think he would take. It's what you think is best for his roster.
Sure. As if I look at other people's rosters. Let's see.
Whatever interpretation you want.
Yeah, well, we know that Mel loves a quarterback with draft capital, and I think he's facing a little bit of a crunch with. He's got his anchor quarterback, and then Geno and Fields, and yeah, he's set with Josh Allen, that's for sure. The rest of his quarterback room: Geno, Fields, Kirk Cousins.
I mean, he's got 2 starters there. Fields just got the contract as well. I mean, a much lower contract, but he's going to be the starter for this year.
Yeah, he's got 3 starters for this year at least.
Yeah. I mean, and Cousins was probably going to get released. Like, I don't know what the hell they're doing. They might be waiting until the new league year or something. I don't know how that's all going.
That's a strange situation.
They're trying to find a trade partner.
Okay.
Trying to see if someone will give them anything.
No, they don't. I don't think they want anything. I just think they want to unload the contract.
Right. That would be something.
Yeah, I think Mel would be looking at running back here. I think Mel would be looking at quarterback here. That's a rough one. I think, okay, one more time. I need you to set up what is the purpose of this pick here? Just so I follow and stay within the color within the lines here.
You are the new manager of this team. Do what's best for the roster.
I'm taking Jackson Dart.
Okay.
That's what's best for every roster.
Oh, Jackson Dart.
All right, Jackson Dart, 37th overall to Las Vegas. Just in the interest of pointing this out for everyone who isn't looking at this mock draft in front of them, this mock draft has Shedeur Sanders going number 2 overall to Cleveland.
See,
But you know what? This roster has Geno Smith, so he's just handcuffing.
Yeah.
He's handcuffing that Raiders quarterback situation. He's got it covered.
And the number one rule was no sabotage. So how do I give a guy Shedeur Sanders?
We're just out completely on Shedeur then.
Is anybody in on Shedeur? Does anybody like this guy?
I'm sure
Serious
some
question.
people do.
I mean, he went number 2 overall in this NFL mock.
Right.
So the NFL thinks that he's a starter.
Yeah,
he's got skills. He's a accurate passer. He throws with good anticipation. He doesn't have the best arm strength. He's tough in the pocket, even though he stays there too long and gets a million sags. You know, he's another guy that he has a lot of traits you look for starting quarterbacks, but he also has a lot of traits of guys that bust. This is not a clean quarterback class.
It's really not. And honestly, I just wanted to frustrate Jarsal there a little bit. Obviously, that's I will change my pick to Shedeur because I do think that's what Mel would do.
No, absolutely not. No, I already wrote it down.
Well, okay, fine.
No problem with pen and paper. See, it's already written down. Dart is written on there.
Okay, fair.
That's it. We're done.
If you really like Dart over Sanders, I mean, Dart went in a place where he's probably going to get a chance to start. This is the kind of range that the Raiders took Derek Carr back in the day, early second.
Yep.
You know, Geno Smith, he's been a
bridge.
He's been a good NFL quarterback, but yeah, I mean, this is the guy that they're going to bring in to kind of establish the culture, not the guy that they're going to carry the culture, right? That's the reason they brought in Petey Sunshine. They want to establish a winning culture. They're trying to get it off the ground and stop being a losing franchise. You know, these are not the guys that are going to be here 5-10 years from now. But that somebody needs to get it started. Someone needs to turn it around.
Yeah, I just think he's a better quarterback than Shedeur. I understand the draft capital argument around this mock. You know, I think Mel would be very upset with me if we were co-managing a team and I did this. I'm not as bullish on Dart as some of the previous quarterbacks that I've fallen in love with, but I do think that he's clearly I wouldn't say clearly. I do think he's the quarterback one of this class. Like, I don't think Cam's that great. Now, it's not going to play out that way because nobody, A, trusts me, and B, the draft capital won't reflect it. I think he'll get Dart will get drafted a little higher than maybe he's being projected, especially in this mock.
Sure.
But at the same time, those jobs are drying up a little bit, and the teams that are acquiring these quarterbacks are not doing so, signaling a bridge role. Geno looks like he's there to be the guy. Darnold looks like he's there to be the guy. They're big contracts, and it would take a big-time rookie training camp performance in order to really make some hay. So
that's what we said about Kirk Cousins last year.
Right. That's true.
There's a lot of parallels because last year Michael Penix was my quarterback one, but I couldn't rank him that way because I said, well, there's no way he goes in the first round. I mean, this is a guy that's going to be a day 2 pick. Maybe he goes early second and he gets a chance to get in a battle somewhere. And then he went top 10. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Dart ends up in the top 10. There's a lot of quarterback needy teams. The reason they're picking in the top of the draft is because they don't have a quarterback. You know, These guys get pushed up higher than we expect very often. And he's certainly got high-end traits. He's got stuff you can work with. This is a guy like we saw with Zach Wilson. I mean, hopefully it doesn't turn out like Zach Wilson, but this is a guy that was probably a day. Well, it's a guy that was probably a day 2 pick, and then people fell in love with the traits. He was crazy on his pro day, throwing 60 yards across his body. He looks amazing. That's the kind of stuff that Jackson Dart's going to do. It just takes one team to fall in love and say, I can mold this guy, you know.
Right.
So it may not be as crazy as it looks right now. There may not be that big of a gap between these guys in draft capital by the time all's said and done.
Yeah, and like you said, him owning Geno, it would be a smooth transition there. I think he'd rather, knowing the Mel I know, I think he would rather have multiple quarterbacks from multiple teams rather than invest two draft spots and two roster spots into one position. I do not think this is the pick he would be making, but I wanted to say the name Jackson Dart on this podcast, and so now I have.
Yeah, I think that's a big argument against, especially in a best ball. In a lineup, you can stick the backup quarterback on your bench, and who cares? He's not hurting you. In a best ball, that's a spot that you're getting. One of these two guys is going to score 0 points every week.
Yeah, and also Mel's in a position where he's made the playoffs every year. He's always competing for a title here. He's a good team, and having actual production would probably be helpful for that.
Right. Correct. It just so happens this is the last pick I get to make, so I had to get it in there.
I don't hate the Dart pick. In instances
yes, you do.
No, I know. Here's the thing. He's got. I can't tell whether he's got a good arm or not.
He's got a good arm, yeah.
Because he seems like he has a good arm, and he throws deep a lot, and it seems to be fairly accurate. But also, like
his footwork is terrible.
Huh?
His footwork is terrible. His arm.
Is that what it is? Is he just not getting the placement that he needs to? He throws well pretty much everywhere on the field, which is
he's got NFL caliber arm strength for sure.
Exactly.
His
which
footwork
is teams are going to see and like.
Footwork is rough, and again, this is a guy like we were talking about Daniels and Nix, where the first stop was not great. He was at USC, it didn't go well, and we've seen these guys kind of move on to other teams. The other detraction for him is the offense he played in. I mean, we've seen guys come out of this offense and they're not exactly NFL ready. We've seen it with a lot of receivers mostly. They don't run a lot of NFL concepts. It's kind of a gimmicky offense that's designed to get guys wide open, stuff you're not going to see in the NFL.
Yeah,
right.
So he definitely benefited from that. But I mean, he has real NFL.
So you didn't see a lot of tight window throws and things like that.
Right. He's got the arm talent. He's got the mobility. He's tough. He can add value as a rusher more than you're going to see from Ward or Sanders. These guys don't run at all, basically. So he's got that upside of potentially contributing in a way that Bo Nix did last year, where kind of a sneaky runner.
The biggest concern I have with his deep passing is when he throws it, it seems like the ball is in the air for too long.
That's how I feel about Shedeur.
He doesn't throw it on a rope, essentially. He floats it. I watched the receivers adjusting on it, and I just feel like NFL cornerbacks are going to have enough time to adjust and catch up on a lot of his deep throws. The arm strength seems to be there, but he doesn't seem to utilize it. It could be just the footwork thing, like you said. If he sets properly and all that, maybe it'll improve.
I think that stuff can be cleaned up because you definitely.
It didn't look like NFL deep passing to me. It looked like college deep passing.
He's got the arm, so that's kind of stuff that you can see be cleaned up potentially if he gets in a spot where he doesn't have to start right away. Like this mock is actually a perfect landing spot. If he goes to a team, say the Giants pass on a quarterback in the first and he ends up going there in the early second and they have no other choice and they have to start him right off the rip and he's not really ready to go, it could be ugly. So if he actually gets a chance to kind of sit and develop, for a year, it may be better off in the long term for his value.
His combine balls were pretty as far as NFL caliber throws.
Yeah, he's a guy that I would expect to have a very impressive pro day.
He's going to rise up boards for sure.
Yeah, he will. He will. That's and
we've talked about the guys at the top. These are flawed prospects. It's not like we're comparing him to some kind of elite locked-in 101 guys that we knew 3 years ago. This guy was going to be 101. These are not those guys. 3 years ago, Ward was at Incarnate Ward, and Sanders was playing in subdivision. Or is he at Jackson State?
Wherever he was, I don't know.
Right. So these are not your typical 101, 102 quarterback profiles coming in. So Dart can
Right.
definitely make up a gap here.
You say you're going to see him rise up. I think you're going to see Milrow go up too. I don't know where he is right now, but I think he'll pop up. I know you make faces, but I think it's the same thing. I think that second tier of quarterbacks go up boards. I think that's what happens.
Mm.
I think it's another name.
I didn't say I agreed with it. I just say I think it's going to happen.
The difference with
I think
Milrow is we saw him play at the highest college level,
don't-
and he was not good
I don't think
as
it
a
matters.
passer.
I don't think it matters.
And the combine was bad.
I honestly, I don't think it matters. I think he's going to move up anyways.
Quarterbacks
I think
always
there
move up. It's the NFL. Everybody
Yep.
needs a quarterback.
I think there will be other quarterbacks move up. I don't think it'll be him. I think it's going to be other names.
Speaking of other names, pick number 11. We're back to Mr. Good News' team. Pick originally belonged to Flea, and I'm going to make it. All right, like you guys made me take Ward at 5. And now
Gotcha.
I'm sitting here looking at Shador Sanders second overall at 11. Like, guys,
Quarterback
I don't
one
wanna
and
do this.
quarterback two are just falling into his lap. This is like the
Like-
best case scenario for Mr. Good News with this roster.
I think Mr. Good News is going to listen to this podcast and be like, well, that was boring. That's stupid. And he's right, because it is boring and it is stupid. But like,
It's-
you can't not.
It's a
take it.
smart thing to do. It's the
Like-
reason that you took Bo Nix 112 last year, because
Yeah.
if a quarterback goes in the top 5 of the NFL draft, you got to take him in the first round of a Superflex league. You have to.
It's the exact same argument for Ward. It's Sanders, second overall to Cleveland in the mock. I don't have a lot that I love about Sanders. We talked about him very briefly a minute ago. He does have some good decision making skills that I think translate pretty well to the NFL. I don't love his game. Apparently Cleveland does.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I took Jackson Dart. I mean, the draft capital is there. That's about it.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
about it.
in this situation, it doesn't even matter what the name is. You have to take the guy in this spot when it's the second overall pick and you're down to 111 and you got a team that needs everything, especially quarterback. You have to take him regardless of who it is.
I think that this particular draft class is very strange, obviously, and then our league is very strange. And you have two strange elements combining here. I think our mock looks wild. I think anyone listening to this is going to be like, what the hell? But I also think that on draft day, that the final 1 through 12 will be just as wild, because you have multiple tight ends, you have bad quarterbacks, you have deep running backs, you have tight ends that played quarterback sometime. I mean, and Travis Hunter is the ultimate wild card. So I just really think, like, no matter which way you roll this, it's gonna.
Don't you two
look
have better
strange.
things to do right now than literally be trading?
We got you.
Here's the thing. I literally thought about doing this last night. I was like, I should get a trade lined up with Big that we can surprise Al with on the podcast. And then you guys went and did it to me, you bastards.
Well, you told me you didn't want me to make my pick at 112, so
It's true. Well, now you're making his. All right, sorry, I didn't mean to
not my
interrupt.
pick anymore.
Should have let you finish the thought.
No, let's roll into it. Let's go 112. You're up, Big.
Hold on. There's a couple things about Sanders that I do like and do want to say. You know, we heard like earlier in the draft season here a lot of interest in him going to like Vegas and stuff. I think that some of what he does would fit well with being mentored by someone like Tom Brady. I think he does well in the short area. I think he does well as distributing in intermediate and making quick passes and quick decisions and stuff. I think he gets into trouble in other places. I don't know that Cleveland in this mock draft would be the place to develop those talents and everything. In real life, I could see that sort of thing having worked out, but obviously that's not going to happen now.
I saw a player comp to Drew Brees. I thought was generous.
Sure. Yeah. Again, quick distributing the ball, or quick distribution of the ball. I should probably say. I can speak, I swear.
If you're talking about Drew Brees as a prospect, sure, but Drew Brees went in the second round. He wasn't number 2 overall pick, but he has some similarities where, he is a distributor.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't turn the ball over either. Like there's no.
He's accurate.
He doesn't make throws that are turnover worthy plays.
Right. He's very accurate. He has a ability to make his receivers look better than they actually are. I mean, he's got probably 5 receivers on this team that are NFL prospects because he was the quarterback, not because they're actual NFL prospects outside of.
And that means something. You're elevating the players around you.
Right. And he's done that at every stop. He did that at Jackson State. He did that at Colorado, turning around 2 programs, not renowned programs.
And he can make impressive throws. He does do stuff. I like how he rolls left and, launches it, but he just goes to that move quite a bit.
And
Tyler does that a lot too.
He's tough as hell too. Teammates are going to love him for that. I mean, this guy takes a beating and he never stays down. He took a lot of hits. That offensive line was really bad. He took a beating this last year. So that's the kind of thing that enamors you to teammates. When you're the quarterback, you have to be able to win the locker room.
Fractured his back.
Especially a guy with the last name of Sanders. There's going to be questions of him coming in. Is he a diva?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to throw at the combine.
When your father's the coach.
Right. So you have to be extra tough and, put in extra work when you're that guy.
Yeah. I think that he could have success in the right system.
It's going to take the right system. He's not a guy that is system proof. He's not going to excel in every type of offense. He's not going to excel without good weapons around him. We always talk about, is he the horse pulling the wagon or is he the wagon getting pulled?
Sure.
Right.
I don't think any of these guys are necessarily horses, but it doesn't mean they can't be successful if they're not in the right situation. There's very few guys that are horses in the actual NFL.
There's certainly a part of me that wants to fall in love with him because I do feel like he's the guy that a lot of people are fading. That if I could,
if you could get there,
if I could get there, that
Right.
there would be value to be found as we see 111 in this draft. That's
for a
that's
second
amazing.
overall pick. Yeah,
That's crazy.
Exactly.
Crazy
Exactly.
good value. Quarterback goes second overall in the NFL draft. Those guys do not fall to the end of the first round in any super flex leagues.
Right. But the problem with that is once you do invest, it's hard to trade someone that already just has such a negative, following. I don't see anyone speaking his praises ever. I don't see anyone being positive about him. I feel like everyone's avoiding him at all costs, and that's not the kind of guy that I want to get into bed with.
It's very similar to what we saw last year with Bo Nix, right? He was universally panned as, this is the worst of these top quarterbacks. Nobody wanted him. We saw him go to the end of the first. We said, well, unless he's in a perfect situation, which he really did. He ended up in Denver, which was the perfect offense for him that really utilized his skill set perfectly. If Sanders ends up in a situation like that, we could see a repeat. But again, like you said, you're stuck with him basically if he doesn't produce right away. You're not going to be able to trade him because nobody valued him in the draft. That's why he went at the end of the first round like he's going right now.
Yep.
This is going to sound silly because I traded him away, but as you guys know, I like Bo Nix. I mean, not shocking that I drafted him and everything, but it sounds like of the three of us, I'm the highest on Shedeur, and that's a little scary because I'm not super high on him.
Yeah.
Well, I would have taken him before this in the smog.
Yeah.
Just because he's a quarterback that went number 2 overall. Pretty much player agnostic at that point. The draft capital tells me this guy's got to go probably in the top half of Superflex drafts.
Probably.
And if y'all had invited,
we'll see what happens.
If y'all had invited any other person onto mock with you, he'd be gone at, sooner. 109, 106, either one of my picks, or 107, 110. Anyway.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be fun. That's why we brought you in.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to hear us do a chalk mock.
We ended up with 3 quarterbacks taken in the first round, which, for a super flex league is not an uncommon thing, even when there aren't 3 NFL first rounders. We've got one last pick here, number 12. This pick, obviously, originally Big's pick because he won the title last year. This pick up until about 3 minutes ago was on Al's team. And then these two assholes apparently had this trade set up before the draft. Because they definitely didn't negotiate during this. Or maybe you did. I don't know. But we just had the trade. Big picked back up the 112 and the 303, which was originally my pick. And in return, Al picked up Keenan Allen, the 409, and the 202. So Al has managed to acquire Keenan Allen and Zach Moss in one offseason. How do you feel?
Feeling fantastic.
Big, you're back into the first round at 9 and 12 now. How do you feel?
Well, it's basically just a second round pick.
I should have said that in negotiations. Maybe I could have got a better fourth round back.
Yeah, no, I mean, if there is one round where the number in front of the decimal matters, it's the first. So I guess I'm happy to be up there. This was more about the 303 for me. I do think this class lacks the depth that most classes have, except at running back. But the tiers are extending, and I'm starting to see value in the 303. I just think with all of the tight ends and things that are going to be going, there's going to be some good players available in that early third. And Keenan, on 1 year, I saw a lot of value there. Al tried to get me on this a few days ago, and I went back and forth on it, and I really ultimately decided to go ahead and do it, mostly for the joy of this podcast. But
Appreciate
but
your
also,
sacrifice.
no, I mean, I
Doing
told you
it for the content.
I
Got
told
it.
you in chat, like, I'd love obviously a higher pick, but I think this is an off ramp for me to get out from under Keenan, and it makes sense for you. It makes sense for me, and we'll see what happens. 303 doesn't look great now, but I think closer to draft time it's going to look a little better.
Yep, I agree. These picks have a way of increasing in value.
Al
Yeah.
making his own pick.
Which
Now
I can
guess
tell you,
it's
I
Al
would have
making a pick for Big again.
I would have taken Caleb Johnson for sure. That was my locked-in
Okay.
pick here at
All right.
112. If I'm drafting for my own roster, Caleb Johnson was the slam dunk pick because I need running backs, and Caleb Johnson in this draft went in the late second to Washington.
61st
One of
overall.
one of the best running teams in the league last year, and
It's a
that
good
was
spot to
with
be.
plotter Brian Robinson leading the way. I think that if Caleb Johnson came in this situation, he would replace Brian Robinson as their early down hammer.
Unfortunately, yes.
Be great for him and for them. All right. So instead of that, you're drafting for Big's team. Big has the strongest running back room in the league, or maybe second strongest, but certainly much stronger than yours.
Right. Yeah. Running back is not a need for this team, though
Nope.
neither is tight end, and I gave him a tight end last time. So
All right. So where are you going?
good question, because I planned on training it, and then I thought Big that was going to actually make this pick. So now I
we can
gotta
let him. We can
look
let
at
him
my
make
board.
his own pick here.
Yeah, I
we
think
can
since
do
we
that.
traded it to him, might as well let him make his pick here.
All right, Big. This was originally your pick. You traded it away. You got it back. It's
I will
not
take
technically your turn to
Jackson
pick,
Dart.
but we're letting you pick.
Yeah, could I take that one back now?
Too late. You could try trading with Mel, but I've tried that before, and he's going to get you on that one. He knows you like Dart.
Well, since it is for my roster, I do like Caleb Johnson, by the way. Interestingly, he was the very first guy that I watched, and I was kind of bored by him. I pretty much was like, my note was like, yada, 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 moving on. But I've given him a second look, and if he ends up in a zone scheme, wheels up. I think
Yeah.
things are looking really good there. So I would be happy with him in Washington, but I'm not going to go there. I will take Matthew Golden, who's getting a little love as possibly the first wide receiver taken in the real draft. I don't think that's going to happen at all, but he reminds me a little bit of Marquise Brown and Garrett Wilson kind of combined. I think he does have that first wide receiver in the draft kind of profile. He's very well-rounded, all-around player. You wish he was a little taller. You wish he was a little faster. You wish he caught a little better, but he can do all those things well. And his route running is good. I'll go that way.
Yeah, this is a guy that really has come on the last half of the college football season, really the playoffs. He was kind of showcased as their main weapon finally. It wasn't always great with Quinn Ewers back there. Speaking of a rough quarterback class that we have, Ewers was at different points considered the best quarterback in this class.
Right.
And he was not good. for most of his college career. So Golden didn't really have a huge opportunity to showcase his talents. You're talking about a guy that ran a 4.29 40 at the combine. Didn't see him used very often in the deep passing game because they could not throw deep. Viewers could not complete a deep pass. But in the playoffs, they really focused on him and he really showcased what he could be. And that's the reason he's been flying up draft boards. And I know the Pittsburgh landing spot isn't ideal considering they just traded for DK, but you have to think if they're taking this guy in the first round at this pick, then they probably have a plan for him. You know, this is not going to be Roman Wilson that we saw.
The plan is to trade Pickens.
Right. That's probably
Right.
Pickens will be gone. And then you're talking about a guy that will really complement DK very well, kind of like Tyler Lockett was for him in Seattle.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm definitely thinking Pickens is gone. And the other wide receiver I was looking at is your guy there, and he just got buried by the Devontae Adams signing. Based on this mock, he's going to the Rams.
26 overall to the Rams in this one.
Yep.
So that, you know, obviously I don't think that's going to really happen now, but if that were the way that it played out, then, you know, I can't consider Igbuka there. I would go Golden. But that's even also with the jump in logic that Pickens would be traded. So that is not necessarily a slam dunk.
I think it's more likely that Pickens would be moved in this situation than Puka or Devontae Adams, who they just signed.
Right. No, yeah.
Exactly.
Agree.
I'm shocked by how quickly Golden has come up these draft boards. Like I don't think I heard his name more than a couple times going back a couple of months. And then, like you said, it was basically the effectiveness in the playoffs, and then obviously the 40 time.
Yeah, if he gets drafted in the first round, especially if he goes as the first receiver off the board in the NFL draft,
yeah,
you're talking about almost unprecedented levels of lack of production for a first round receiver. He really didn't do much. I think his career high is like 50 catches in a season, which was this year, and most of that was in the last 3 games. So very small sample size.
He does some stuff very well, though. The way he runs his routes, he makes separation for himself, which is something that should translate pretty well to the next level.
Right. There's a reason that draft evaluators are now coming around on him and they weren't before, because they probably weren't watching him before because he didn't warrant first round grades until they took a closer look based on what he did late in the season. We see that, you know, guys kind of come into the process late and can move up as more people get their eyes on him. You can go back and dig through the old tape and said, okay, what was he doing? You know, he may not have been a big producer, but how did he actually look? And then you see Quinn Ewers miss him by 30 yards. He has to come back to the ball. He's got the defender by 15 yards, and he's got to circle back and try to fair catch a punt that Quinn Ewers threw him.
He's a little bit on the smaller side of things, and I still think that a lot of scouts and scouting departments are very old school in their approach of we want big wide receivers, strong wide receivers, and they discount small players until they basically are forced to not discount them anymore.
Well, it's also something that we see at the NFL level when there's a bunch of receivers that have similar grades. It's kind of a pick your flavor. Are you looking for a big bodied X? Are you looking for a guy that can play Z? This is what we saw in the JSN, Flowers, QJ draft, where the Chargers took the guy that they thought could play an X role for them when maybe he wasn't the best prospect overall, but he was kind of the best fit for that role, where JSN kind of got pigeonholed. Well, he's a slot only guy, which obviously we know was wrong. We saw him play a lot outside last year and be successful. That happens at the NFL level.
I think we can also blame that a little bit on the coordinator.
It's very fair. There's a reason that he's been fired multiple spots in the last couple of years.
The other wide receiver name that I think fell out of the first round in this mock that I don't think would fall out of a real first round is Burden. Obviously, this mock has him going to Tennessee. But I guess that would be Levis. Was there a quarterback going to Tennessee in the?
They haven't not in the mock. No.
Right.
They traded back and took a pass rusher.
So it's going to be Aaron Rodgers.
At Levis's, wide receiver Okay, I don't like Burden because he was being considered wide receiver 2, and and in the same tier as Tet, and I don't think that's accurate. But he is a fine player, and I do think that he could be considered here in this 112 spot over Golden,
Yep.
as well.
Yeah, that's one of those. These are Golden, Egbuka, and Burden are very different types of players, in my opinion. They all have things that they do well, but they're not in the same bucket. It's what type of guy are you more interested in? What what's the flavor that you like best? Like I can see an argument for any of them and all of them depending on landing spots and capital and that sort of thing.
Right.
And I like most of them. Burden, when I was watching him, reminded me a lot of when I watched Curtis Samuel, and I've always loved Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, catch the ball behind the line of scrimmage and then run with it. Yeah. He does that really well. It's just all he does.
It's a limited skill set, it seems. But maybe he'll surprise us and he can do other things and they just didn't use him that way.
Right. We have to see if he was limited by the offense or if he was limited by his skill set. I mean, considering the year before he was very productive in a more diverse route tree, it may have been the quarterback in the offense overall that kind of cratered this year. But
it seems like a distinct possibility.
Time will tell in the NFL.
All right. That clears the first round there. Let's give a quick recap before we close things out. All right. From 1 through 12, we had Tet go 101, Genty 102, Hampton 103, Warren 104, Ward 105, Judkins 106, Hunter 107, Henderson 108, Loveland 109, Dart 110, Sanders 111, and Golden 112. Not a bad group right there. I wonder how many of these will actually go at those spots in our draft. I bet you we hit 2.
Generous.
I didn't say which 2.
They run those NFL mock competitions every year before the draft, and you got to fill out
you're right.
And see how many you get right, and if you get more than 2 or 3 right,
we should do that.
Good.
We should do that for the league. We should have everybody make their predictions of who will go 1 through 12, and like send them in or something like that, and see who is the most accurate. Now that's a little bit of cheating because like I could almost guarantee 3 spots and make sure I was right if I were to want like 101. Obviously, I know who I'm going to pick by that point. Right. If I could just go someone a little bit lower in ADP at 3 and 6 and guarantee that I would win that stupid competition at the risk of hurting my team.
I thought you meant for the NFL draft, not for our draft.
For our draft, yeah. Well, we could do the NFL draft. Let's do that too. That sounds fun.
So who fell out of the first round that should have been picked?
I think we're probably going to see another tight end.
I was going to say,
based on this mock,
Arroyo going to Denver in the second round, I think would get a lot of people hot and bothered.
And Taylor going to the Chargers. That's pretty much the best tight end landing spot, right? They have no wide receiver 2. They need another pass catcher. Taylor's not the most exciting prospect. He is the son of Hall of Famer Jason Taylor.
Yep.
But he really didn't produce in college. He looks like a good athlete. He looks like a tight end. He looks like a top prospect. He got good draft capital, but he wasn't the best watch on film.
But like you said, it's a great landing spot, and if you 55th pick, middle of the second round, it's good capital. If that were to happen in real life, he would definitely be targeted by a lot of guys in leagues like ours that value tight end so heavily. Do you remember what I texted you when I watched Arroyo the first time?
Said someone was going to overdraft him.
Someone's going to overdraft him.
Yeah, he's another guy that he looks like a really good athlete. He's definitely the seam stretching tight end prospect. Yeah. His first 2 years were kind of wrecked by injury. He really didn't get to play at all. So this was the only year that we even saw him, and he still came out, which means he probably got word that he's going to go somewhere in this range.
Yeah. And he's got the size, he's got the speed and everything.
If he lands with Denver, we know they want to feature a seam stretching, pass catching tight end badly. They tried how many different guys last year?
Yeah, right. Everyone that they could get their hands on. Although There was a report earlier today linking Evan Ingram there. So if they sign Ingram, then they probably wouldn't take a second round tight end. I'm sure they would take a tight end, but probably not that high.
Right.
I would be
That would be a good
thrilled with
spot for a
that
tight end to
as the
fall
Ingram
into.
manager, by the way.
Yeah, I bet that's one of the better spots to land in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my guess is that one of the it would be someone like Arroyo or Taylor. I don't know. Who do you think that we didn't pick that might have been up there? Now, you said
Well,
Burden earlier.
Burden and Egbuka, I think, will go to better landing spots in the real draft.
That could be. Yeah, I mean,
And
if they last that long in the real NFL draft, end of the first round, beginning of the second round, that means that teams that are actually good and have good established quarterbacks and systems will have a chance to draft them. And that let's remember Sky Moore. Like people will say, "Oh my God, he's got Patrick Mahomes throwing to him. We got to draft him early. He's a first rounder," and it probably shouldn't have been.
Yep, absolutely.
Not to pick on Sky Moore or anything, or Al.
He deserves it.
Poor Sky Moore.
I think we've gone on long enough this evening. It is well after midnight now here. No, I don't well after. It's definitely after midnight here. And I woke up at 2 a.m. So I'm going to say goodbye and good night to everyone now.
We could do 2 more hours and could just be up for 24 hours.
Yeah. Real quick, I have a suggestion for a resource that I just discovered yesterday.
Okay.
And that's Underdog Fantasy has a YouTube series called 2 Minute Drill. Have y'all seen that?
I have not.
No.
Like I said, if you're just needing like one afternoon to kind of like familiarize with yourself with the names, I think it's like a quick, easy way to get into it. One thing I don't like about it is I don't like to be told a lot about guys before I see it, which is why I choose the highlight film, because there's not a lot of analysis. It's just kind of film.
Yeah.
And this is, quick 2-minute analysis, but it is very generic. It's very just surface level. Tells you a little bit about where the teams were at and the college teams that the guys played at, or played on, where they were at, and just adds a little context to the players. So it's a good, quick way, and you can go and you can sort it by playlist, so you can watch all the tight ends or all the quarterbacks or all the running backs. So I did that last night, and I found that very helpful, just as a quick way. So if you're looking for a resource, that's when.
So what you're saying is I should edit this out so we do not help our league mates.
That's correct.
I don't think, right. I don't think it'll help too much. It's very, very basic stuff, but just a good way to learn the names real quickly. Because a lot of guys, I think in March, a lot of guys are still learning who these people are.
Yeah, I haven't gone a whole lot deeper than the guys that we've discussed. I mean, I have, but not like super deep.
I've been operating in a Fannin tight end 3 world, so I don't even know Arroyo. Haven't watched him. No concept of this person whatsoever.
Gotcha. Yeah, Fannin's a guy who didn't go in the first 2 rounds of this mock, but if he does in real life,
you
want to talk about a guy who
he'll jump up.
Was the engine of an offense. He was even bigger part of the offense. I mean, he
was above Loveland in percentages of everything.
I've been charting these guys since we've been doing Dynasty. How many years now have been doing?
You've got the spreadsheet's got 5 years worth of data in it.
6 years, yeah. There's no one even close to him as far as percentage of the college offense. You talk about target share and dominator ratings. No prospects. I mean, the closest one is
McBride.
Oh, yeah.
Lost his name. Yeah, McBride is the closest comp as far as production wise, and we remember when he came out, he was the entire offense. It's a very similar situation, except Fannin was in an offense that was highly productive. Loveland got half of the yards, but the team only threw for 1,800 yards on the season. Fannin had half the yards, and they threw for like 4,000 yards. It's incredible production from a tight end. He's a little bit undersized, so we don't know if the NFL is going to knock him for that. But production-wise, he's off the charts.
Reminds me of Isaiah Likely, just very, very,
Exactly. That was my comp. Isaiah Likely was at Coastal Carolina, was crazy productive. He was the offense. And then he came to the combine, and he looked like a terrible athlete. He bombed his pro day, bombed the combine.
Ignore all that. Draft him anyways.
Right, you did. I was like, I'm out on this guy. He's terrible. His RAS score was like 4 something. I said tight ends that do this aren't productive. All the best tight ends are good athletes. And he's been very
4.83
surprising.
RAS for likely.
Yeah, and he wasn't big. It's not like he was 280 pounds running that. He was like 230. And he ran a 4.8.
He was 245. He was right on that threshold of like, is he big enough to be a tight end?
That's not a good combination. But yeah, I mean, sometimes these guys just find ways to be productive. Fannin is definitely in that group. If we get good draft capital, then yeah, we're going to be in on him for sure.
Love it.
Big, thank you for joining us. Thank you for the hot takes. Thank you. And congratulations on the title.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. We're gonna do a couple more off-season pods. We're not exactly sure when. We're not exactly sure what. We're gonna figure that out as we go.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for inviting me over. It was fun to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
It was a fun exercise, and it forced me to get my SHIT together on this draft class.
Now you got to trade for some more picks.
Yeah, right? There we go.
More. He just traded for another first-round pick. He's already got more.
But
Yeah,
I'm out of the money round, so I got to get back in
right.
the money round.
I have a second-round pick, but it's basically a third if you want to trade for that.
I love those.
All right. As always, we will catch everybody next time, but until then,
See you in the league chat.
Toodaloo.